Do you want to know why when you flip a globe over, it says not for educational use, but decorative purposes only? It's because not only would you never get to where you're going, but if you did, you would add miles upon miles upon miles on your trip. I want you to look at the CBS American School of Air map used in 1943 for flight school. And I want you to look at this. Here is a scale. People always say, where's your flat earth map with a scale? Well, here it is. Not only does it have a scale, but it has this funny looking white border with all this outlined mapped terrain. What could that be? What could that be, I wonder? Not that continent at the bottom of the globe, something else that surrounds it. Now I want you to look at this map, and I want you to look at New York, and I want you to look at the path you would take from New York to Moscow. Okay, let's take a closer look. New York to Moscow, how's that gonna look on this map? Let's draw a line right straight across, and notice how it's going to cut through Greenland. Now let's look at what the flight path they show us actually looks like. So when you pull up the actual flight path, this is what it looks like. They make it so it arcs up to Greenland and then down to Moscow. And notice the distance is actually shorter on their curved line compared to this one. If you were to just go straight from New York to Moscow, why would that be longer? Think about that. Again, on the flat earth map, that's an actual map that flight schools used to use. Right through Greenland, and I want to show you why their straight line is actually a longer distance. Because this is what their straight line actually is on a real map. The map pilots use, the flat earth map. It adds distance because you go curve away from it to come back versus going straight across. Now I just want to give you another example of how their curved flight paths from LA to Japan, why would we do that? I'll show you. Because on the flat earth map, LA to Japan is actually an exactly straight line. You just fly across, and I want you to notice, where do they cut through? Alaska, and just on the edge of Russia here. Let's go back and look. Look again. LA, through Alaska, just to the tip, across Russia, and down to Japan. Now is it making sense? Oh, and if you don't believe me, maybe you'll take these guys' word for it.
How long have you been a pilot for?
43 years.
Wow. What shape is the planet?
Flat.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
Curvature? No.
No, there's no curvature?
It's just all flat.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I've been flying,
Yeah.
and I've come to the conclusion
Yeah.
there is no curvature. I never allow for curvature. There's no way there's curvature. We're round and flat, aren't we?
Definitely.
We are, aren't we?
Flat as a pancake,
Thank you,
mate.
sir.
Flat as a pancake.
And the outer ring is south,
Yeah.
and so north must be in the middle, correct?
Possibly.
That
Yeah.
would be the only way that a
Yeah.
magnetic compass would works on a flat plane.
Might be onto something there.
Yeah,
Might be
but
onto something.
you're not having me on. We
No,
are.
no,
We're round and flat,
Flat
aren't
as a
we?
pancake, mate. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, man.
No worries.
You made my day.
Don't even get
So again, this is on there because it has to be. Otherwise, everyone would be getting lost. Everyone. And the next time someone says, show me a flat earth map with scale and a key, take them to the CBS American School of Air Map and show them this. And say, here you go. But as always, I know this is just a fake map from 1940s. They did these things to be funny. There was no point of this, and all this terrain out here, that's really just Antarctica at the bottom that they just stretched out in a circle for funsies. All for entertainment purposes, of course. Have a good day.
Flat as a pancake.
Flat as a pancake.
This testimony from experienced pilots.
One of them with 43 years in the air.
That map says it all too, doesn't it?
It does.
Cardinal Matt Staader, thanks for joining us today.
Thank
Especially important topic we have.
And potentially a very contentious one as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that have been indoctrinated to a certain belief system, and that belief system centered around what they were taught were facts clearly are not.
We grew up with the same thing in the education system.
In
belief-
Australia,
Or Argentina, as some would argue.
yeah, well, let's not get into that because the map clearly shows Argentina and Australia are not the same country, so we don't need to get into that. But no, there's more evidence about this.
Oh, yeah.
You wanted to discuss that today?
There's many different things, and one thing I do want to point out that there are those. Obviously, there's people who absolutely insist on supporting the theory of the globe Earth, and there's others who insist on endorsing the flat Earth model. But in both camps, there are people who are just idiots, who present things that they think are evidence, and yet there's just they could easily be or they don't prove anything, or they could also be explained in a completely different way to disprove their own theory. I've seen this myself.
Okay, so let's get to the facts, the evidence, shall we? You brought this to our attention recently, thanks to Holy Prophet Michael Har. He's also brought this to our attention. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring it up. This is a document from NASA.
Yeah. And on the document, we can clearly see that this is in relation to the trajectories, how they are calculated for rockets. And we can clearly see that all of their models require they have to be computed relative to a flat, non-rotating Earth for the simulations to work.
So 6 degrees of freedom and aerodynamic symmetry and roll and the missile position in space is computed relative to a flat, non-rotating Earth. And that's a missile trajectory, right?
Well, the same thing would apply for rockets, because they are, and to some extent for planes as well, because they're all airborne, self-propelled objects. But one of the things about NASA is, and just as a side note, the direct Hebrew translation of the meaning of the word NASA means to deceive.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, I didn't get an image showing that, but if anyone was to Google just an image search looking for Earth, a globe of Earth, there is only, every single image that comes up is different. The scales are different, continents are inconsistent sizes, the colour changes. All of these different things. There's only 2 images that NASA claims are complete. Well, there's only 2 images of Earth that they endorse. One is the famous image, which I believe the top part of the one we've got on the screen now is taken from, which is called the Blue Marble. But even that, they admit that they fabricated it from thousands of smaller images all spliced together. But underneath is a photo supposedly taken from the International Space Station of the exact same region of Earth as what is circled in yellow there. Look at the scale. Those 2 geological formations should be the exact same size. And yet one is clearly enormous in comparison to the other.
It kind of looks like a fisheye lens.
This is another popular thing used by NASA and other space agencies like SpaceX and what was the other one? Virgin Galactic. I think they've gone very quiet in recent years, but this is one of the other problems that would actually proves NASA's own claim about the blue marble.
So yeah, about the blue marble, this is a problem that they
They've clearly taken images of clouds and just copied and pasted them.
Oh wow. Okay.
See at the bottom there, that you've got the two that are outlined in red. They're exactly the same as each other. Just below that, there's two that are circled in light blue. They're exactly the same. Off to the right, that are marked out in a light purple kind of colour. Identical to each other in every way.
Just filling in the gaps.
Yeah. A composite image.
Interesting. Clearly, they're doctoring these images to for what end? Essentially, they're trying to prevent us from being able to understand the world that we're living on.
Knowledge is power. There's, I think, very few people that would argue that. And knowledge is power in the form that it allows you to control the mindset of the public.
Yeah. So this is. Forgive me for interrupting your thought there, but I want to expound on that. This control factor and how we're seeing clearly that these what people call conspiracy theories are frowned upon, and people who believe things differently than what is the acceptable narrative, in this case what you might call science, questioning that with evidence is you're viewed as crazy or stupid.
Personally, I hate the term conspiracy theories.
Right.
I hate it. Because, for one, there is a certain kind of people out there who will jump on it and try to support the theory with no knowledge whatsoever. And they'll see something and try and promote that as supporting that theory when it clearly doesn't do so. And they'll put these ideas out in the public, completely undermining what they're trying to support.
Mm-hmm.
But every so-called conspiracy theory has at least some truth in it.
Mm-hmm.
And even the things that are put out in the public by organisations such as NASA, the things that they show, even though there's many things in there that are clearly false, there is always a little bit of truth in there. It takes discernment to sort of narrow those things down.
I'm gonna bring up something here that you it's a video, but really the still image.
The still image says it all.
Yeah, so let's switch over that. I'm just gonna give a brief summary of what it says up here if people can't read this. Debunking Earth curve. This is 60 miles or 96.5 kilometers from Indiana State Park to the Chicago skyline, the city of Chicago's skyline. That's the reality. That's a photograph taken from that distance, 96.5 kilometers away. Now, according to the globe theory, the Earth curvature theory,
it's based on the circumference of the globe.
Right. It says that you should only be able to see maybe the top of these buildings, and certainly not the horizon from that distance. And that's actually only at 16.7 kilometers, not even 96.5 kilometers.
Yeah. It's according to the concept of the curvature of the Earth, there is no way there's as much of the city structure, if not being completely invisible, there is no way that much of it should be visible when, was it 20,446 feet of drop should be there?
Right, and this model is consistent with what we're taught in school, that the radius of our globe is allegedly 6,371 kilometers, basically from the center of the globe to the surface. So this model is accurate according to that assumption, but the reality clearly is vastly different.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you can't see the bottom of the city there, but
Now, I've never been to Chicago myself, but from what I'm told, the city itself is not right on the shoreline of the lake. There is sort of hills and things like that in between.
okay. And to be fair, I mean, if there is any kind of curvature, it's much more subtle than that of a globe.
Now, it could very well be that there is a subtle, much more subtle curvature there. But even so, water itself stays level. It cannot take on a curve on its own.
Well, yeah, and that's a whole nother theory about gravity and how all that works. There was another video here that it showed sort of a rendition of a fisheye lens.
I love videos like this.
I mean, I'm going to bring it up. There's going to be a bit of a brief break in our audio when I switch to the scene.
Okay.
So I want people to watch this and see. See that? How it goes flat? All the camera had to do was rotate, and it went from curve to flat on the edge of that fisheye lens.
This is the primary problem with...
Oh, look. Oh, and it starts curving the opposite direction.
This is a big problem with much of the official satellite footage we see.